You have a TV?
No. I just like to read the TV guide. Read the TV guide. You don't need a TV.
Television addict! Television addict! Television addict!
Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. It's Ken Reed here, as I am every Wednesday, with TV guidance counselor. And my guest this week is, I guess you call me former comedian. He is a current writer and critic of comedy, Mr. Sean McCarthy. Sean runs a website called The Comics Comic. He also has an excellent podcast of his own. He used to do improv, used to do stand-up, maybe occasionally still does. Haven't seen him do it in a while. But Sean is a guy I've known for the better part of a decade. He is New York City based now, but was Boston based for many years. He was the dedicated comedy writer at the Boston Herald, which then stopped writing about comedy or just had like the gossip column write it. I don't know what happened, but they decided that they weren't going to be funny anymore. Sean moved to New York. I see him usually every time I'm down there. He's a really good guy, really funny guy, a fellow child of the latchkey television generation. Really enjoyed talking to him, and I think you will really enjoy hearing me talk to Sean. Side note, I still have a little bit of merch left. The TV Guidance Counselor t-shirts, work shirts, enamel pins. Go on iCanRead.com. You can buy them there, or you can go to our Facebook page and find out all that information. Just search TV Guidance Counselor. I may print more. I don't know yet. This was an interesting experiment, and thank you to everyone who purchased these things. And I hope you enjoy them. And if you have them, and you are okay with it, please take a photograph of yourself wearing any of that accoutrement, and I will post it if that is okay with you, or I'd just like to see it. I don't know if people bought these to use them as dish rags or for their dogs as a dog cleanup bag, which is fine, but that I don't want to see. Anyway, please sit back, relax, and enjoy today's episode of TV Guidance Counselor with the comics comic himself, Sean McCarthy.
TV is my friend, and it has been always there for me in time of need.
Mr. Sean McCarthy, how are you, sir?
I'm good. Thank you, Ken.
You're welcome. Thank you for trekking up here and in between flights in your 24 hours in Boston as a jet-setting man of leisure, is what I'll say.
As much as criticizing comedy can be called leisure.
I
guess it is compared to a real job.
Yeah, it's a leisure art. Yeah. Man of leisure just sounds like a good, like that's something to put on a business card. I feel like everybody criticizes comedy.
Do people still have business cards?
I see comics having them, but I feel like that's just more to help with their LARPing of comedian.
I got business cards when I first started the comics comic in 2007, and I still have cards from that initial purchase.
Did you give any to anyone?
Yes.
Because I remember when I was going to Northeastern University, there's tunnels under all the buildings at Northeastern.
Oh.
And they were designed so that like in the winter, kids could get to the different buildings without having to go outside.
Sure.
But by the 2000s, nobody used these tunnels. But they had like a weird machine down there that for $5 would print business cards for you. And you could just, whatever you wanted. Mm-hmm. So I was just constantly making small batch business cards that said like Vampire Hunter or like just whatever. So you could get like 10.
Remington Steele.
Yeah, like whatever you wanted. So
wasn't that his whole deal? Was just he was a business card?
Yeah, basically it was a made up name because on Remington Steele, she ran the agency, but no one took her seriously because she was a woman. Yep. And so she made up.
I barely watched it, but I remember.
It was a cool show. I thought Timothy Dalton was great on it. Was it No, Pierce Brosnan. Pierce Brosnan. Timothy Dalton.
As long as
fantastic.
you didn't say Daniel Craig.
Yeah. No, it's Pierce Brosnan, who a lot of people don't know is Irish and puts on that accent. He's actually an Irish gentleman. He's in the only thing I've ever seen him in television-wise where he uses his own accent is Hammer Pictures, the horror movie company. Used to have a show called Hammer House of Horror that was like a Tales from the Crypt type show. Okay. And he is in an episode where he gets killed by a succubus. Oh. And he uses his real accent. Very exciting. So we picked an edition here from October 22nd to the 28th, 1983 with an orangutan on the cover who goes to the White House from the show Mr. Smith. The show people have seen me post about often because it is about an orangutan that goes to the White House. And it also says how bad reporting scared America, specific to AIDS, but generally.
No, I liked the fact that this week's issue of TV Guide had a crazy orange-haired creature at the White House.
Yep. And
he was talking about the problems of bad journalism.
Yeah, and just AIDS, which should be more involved in these sorts of stories.
It felt so relevant now.
Absolutely. It's
even more relevant now.
Evergreen. It's an evergreen orangutan. So at this point, you're growing up in suburban Connecticut.
Correct. I grew up outside of Hartford.
Okay. Because Connecticut has no one major city. I always say it's a state with 4 Worcesters. Would you say that's accurate?
Wait, so, okay. Hartford,
Yep.
New Haven,
Yep.
Bridgeport.
And New London.
I was going to say, what was the fourth?
What
was the fourth Worcester for you?
New London. They're all Worcesters. If you're from New England, it's a state with 4 Worcesters.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's no Boston in Hartford.
I feel like Hartford was more of a city growing up in the 80s than it is now.
Is it more suburban now?
I think because they had a professional hockey team.
Oh, did they? What were they called?
The Hartford Whalers.
Okay. Named after Bob Marley. No, like a whaling ship, right? Not
right.
Not like screaming.
No, the whaling ship.
Yeah. Because now the Hartford Whalers now would be a Bob Marley inspired hockey team, which would be amazing. It would be like the Jamaican bobsled team.
No, I mean, growing up in Connecticut, we had to pick sports identification if you enjoy sports.
Right.
Which I know you're a huge fan.
I am. We're in my man cave right now, and I got Tom Brady jerseys everywhere.
We were just watching some sort of Eastern European blooper footage, and the guy has a New England Patriots jersey.
That is weird.
In the background for some reason.
I guess if you're outside of the United States at this point, and you go American football team, it's the Patriots.
Right.
It used to probably be the Cowboys or the Bears, but now it would have to be the Patriots.
Right.
Yeah, but you have to pick a New York or a
Boston team. Except for hockey, we had the Hartford Whalers. In basketball, the Boston Celtics would come down and play 3 of their regular season games in Hartford.
Yeah. I mean, and that at that point, that was when the Celtics were the biggest basketball team. Yeah. I mean, it was before people stopped caring in the early 90s, and I could just walk into the Boston Garden without a ticket, which is what we did often.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, when nobody cared, they didn't even check tickets. There's no one at the games. It was fantastic. But you probably also got New York and Massachusetts stations too, right? Maybe not.
No, we had Hartford stations.
But some people get a Connecticut station, a New York station, and a Boston station. So I know people grew up in Connecticut that got like 3 NBCs.
Oh.
Yeah. It might be.
Oh, no, we got, we would get sometimes Springfield stations.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it's
so we had
very exotic.
Yeah. So, no, we had Springfield. So we had a Hartford NBC and a Springfield NBC. And a New Haven ABC and a Springfield ABC.
Right. I mean, that's crazy.
So we didn't even get Boston, New York. We got other
teams.
Worcesters.
Yeah. But did you get any of the UHF stations from Boston, like 68 or 38 or 56?
But my father's side of the family is from Lynn.
The city of sin.
They always told me it was the city of shoes.
Yeah. Well, shoes are sinful. No, Brockton's the shoe city. Yeah, Brockton.
So I don't know why they were telling me.
Speaking of sports teams,
Lynn, City of Shoes.
Brockton used to have a baseball team called the Shoemakers.
Okay, that makes sense.
And actually, this shirt I'm wearing now, which is the Cats, which I forget
baseball
what city
club.
they're from, but there's a company called Ebbets that just bought all the logos to defunct sports teams.
Oh, sweet.
And Keith Olbermann's a co-owner of the company. But they have Brockton Shoemaker stuff, and I got a bunch of stuff from them. The Hawaiian Islanders.
Oh, nice.
The St. Louis Demons.
I'm going to have to look that up.
It's really cool. They have a bunch, but the Shoemakers is cool. So they might have some of those old teams. But I remember when I worked at WFNX that was in Lynn, and you had to walk through prostitutes to get to the building. There was a church that said, Lynn is I guess you'd call it an economically depressed area for people who haven't been.
It was a thriving industrial city outside of Boston.
It was one of the wealthiest parts of Massachusetts, and there are giant, beautiful Victorian houses there still. But the only person who's ever been killed in an episode of Cops happened in Lynn.
Oh.
But there's a...
Do I have an alibi for that?
Yes. There's a famous thing people would say, Lynn, City of Sin. But I would drive by this church, and the church had written on it, Lynn, City of Him. H-I-M, meaning, I guess, Jesus, not H-Y-M, meaning like a church hymn.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm the first of my McCarthys to not grow up in Lynn.
So how did you guys get out? How did your dad get out?
My dad married a woman from Pennsylvania.
And they picked a mid...
Yeah, so we ended up in Connecticut, so it's like, not choosing sides.
Where in Pennsylvania?
Outside of Pittsburgh.
Okay. Did you ever visit that side of the family?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but not as much.
Right. You're not a horror movie guy, are you?
I can be, but I'm not. I mean, it's not my
Yeah, because Pittsburgh,
forte.
I went there specifically to go to the mall from Dawn of the Dead
Oh,
in Monroeville, which was one of the best things I've ever done in my life.
so you didn't go there for Hill Street Blues?
No, did that take place in Pittsburgh?
That was based on the Hill Street is a precinct.
Oh, see, I didn't even
Pittsburgh,
know that. Yeah, because I know the guy who made Hill Street Blues made a movie called Fuzz that they
Okay.
shot in Boston in 1973, and it stars Burt Reynolds and Raquel Welch, and it's really funny and weird. And that was like their first attempt at that story.
Okay.
'Cause it was based on some book, I guess. So you would come up and visit family in Lynn and occasionally watch Boston TV.
Correct.
How often would you come up?
A few times a year.
Okay.
It was. I mean, it was easier for my parents wanted to get away to dump me.
As a babysitter.
to dump me up here.
Yeah, I guess only a couple hours drive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And out of all of my, I'm an only child. Still am.
So out of all your siblings.
But out of all my close family, I guess when I was growing up, so this was 1983, so I was 12. I was closest to my paternal grandfather,
Yeah.
McCarthy. So like he influenced me in a lot of ways. He would, take me to Red Sox games, took me to Suffolk Downs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
McCarthy's going to
as a
Suffolk
12-year-old, he
Downs.
was
Yeah.
taking me to Suffolk Downs.
Yeah.
I was good at betting on the horses.
Horses?
Horses.
Women or horses? That's your. Oh, he's got a lot of debts. Women.
He introduced
horses?
me to James Bond.
Excellent. Not physically.
No.
As a concept.
Not Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah. He was I bet he was a Connery guy.
But he took. Well, I mean, at this time it was Roger Moore films.
Yeah,
That were coming out, but he would take me to those. He took me to Airplane
Yeah. Was he like
as a small child.
Sean Connery was better? Sean Connery wouldn't have been in Moonraker.
We went to see Moonraker.
Yeah,
Well, those movies though had Jaws. So.
they did. I met him once, Richard Keel.
Oh.
Yeah. He before he died.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Terrifying man, huge man.
Yeah.
Also stars in one of my favorite Mystery Science Theater 3000 movies, The Human Duplicators.
Ooh.
He plays a character named Kolos. And his first line, which my wife and I quote all the time for no reason, is, "I am Kolos."
How is his English? Or how was his
It
English?
was good. He was an American gentleman.
Okay.
Yeah, he spoke fine.
that was just acting.
Yeah, that was just acting. He was not actually a monster with metal teeth.
Right.
So this is October month, which is always my favorite month of television. Were you a big Halloween guy growing up?
I was.
What was your favorite costume that you ever wore as a kid?
Ooh. My parents were not crafty, so usually just got costumes from the department store.
The drugstore. Would you
Yeah,
get the
the
Ben
drugstores.
Coopers, which was like the plastic mask and the trash bag?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. There was two, Ben Cooper and Collegeville. Ben Cooper always sprung for the licensing, so they usually got, like the asteroids or the policewoman costume. G.I. Joe.
I was in it more for the candy than I was for the.
Well, yeah, but the costume is kind of a prerequisite.
Yeah.
Good trick-or-treating in Hartford?
There was actually great. I mean, I grew up in a town called Simsbury outside
Okay.
of Hartford, and yeah, it was great trick or treating.
Anyone do full-size bars?
Yeah,
It seems
there
like
were
a
full-size
full-size bar.
bars. There was like a woman who did her whole house. There was a mailman who always did nothing and showed up in his bathrobe and gave us apples. He was
Oh.
the one that.
Well, at least it was on Halloween. He wasn't doing that just on a random night of the year. Because we had a guy who did that. Just come out in his
Well, yeah,
bathroom.
you were just like,
Yeah.
why did we stop at this house again?
Yeah.
Don't we know that this guy is crazy and creepy?
It's the guy in his bathrobe throwing crab apples at us.
But it was one of those quiet, quaint suburban existences in the early '80s where your parents, like my parents, stayed at home and gave out candies. We
Yeah.
just roamed the streets for hours.
No supervision. And you weren't a prankster.
No, what they called it, Cabbage Night, or what did they call it?
Cabbage Night?
The night before? What did you guys
Devil's
call it?
Night.
Devil's.
You called it Cabbage
We called it
Night?
Cabbage Night.
What the hell does that mean?
I think because cabbages stink. I think cabbages were thrown.
So it was like a night where you make things smell like farts?
Farts and toots everywhere.
Farts and toots are everywhere. Yeah. Was that the... I don't know. Like, they call it Hell Night in Detroit because they would light everything on fire. Devil's Night was like a mischief night in a lot of towns.
Yeah, the
we
night
never
before
did,
Halloween.
We never did that here.
We never did that. I neighbors across the street who, a brother and a sister. The sister was my age. The brother was 2 years older. And we never did mischief the night before. We would come up with these elaborate plans to defend our homes.
You were the vigilantes. Yeah.
So we'd be like, stay up, look out the windows. No one's gonna throw eggs at our no one's gonna toilet paper our house.
You were living in the purge.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I still don't get the Cabbage Night thing.
We called it I don't know.
Cabbage Night is what I would call St. Patrick's Day now. Like if I really hated Irish Americans, I'd be like, fucking Cabbage Night, these fucking amateurs come out. Have you ever encountered skunk cabbage?
Well, we had. That's what we. There was a brook or
Yep.
creek down the hill from my neighbor's house, and that had a bunch of skunk cabbage.
Oh, I don't
so
know.
maybe that's why we called it Cabbage Night.
I don't know if people have this in the rest of the United States, but it's the weirdest thing. It grows underground. It's like a root vegetable, and it has like a little teeny nubbin on the top. And if you break that nubbin, it basically is a landmine for farts. It like a fart smell shoots out of the ground, and it's really strong.
Yeah, we would go playing around in the woods
yeah.
in the brook, and there was a definite area that was skunk cabbage.
Yeah, and you could. The best is when you would come into a big patch of it, and you could throw your friend into it, and it would just smell all day because they'd be covered in skunk cabbage. It was like our Vietnam. The skunk cabbage trials.
You sound like a delinquent.
Yes. Well, I did grow up in the Boston area and didn't go to jail. Where our football team was cokeheads and dealers. That was the existence I had. Very Twin Peaks, but without as pretty girls.
Oh.
No one died and was wrapped in plastic either. Let's jump right in here. Saturday
Sure.
night, 8 o'clock. What'd you go with?
I went with Diff'rent Strokes.
This was the kind of not the height of Diff'rent Strokes. We're on the downslide, I think, by 83. Starting to get in the shadow of Facts of Life, which had started to overtake Diff'rent Strokes. But this one is, speaking of vigilantes, the Drummonds catch a burglar, but when the police arrive, everyone recounts a different version of the crime.
Oh.
It's kind of a little Rashomon. And playing the burglar, Terry Kaiser, name might sound familiar, played Bernie in Weekend at Bernie's.
Oh wow!
Yeah. That's a big episode there.
Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid also was playing.
Yes,
on
there's a
cable
lot
TV.
of movies. Did you guys have cable?
We did.
All
Our
full
cable.
movies?
Our cable at the time was a box with a dial on it
Yep.
that had about 36 stations, and I would like to get up and spin the dial.
Yep. See what you ended up
Yeah.
with. Did you have HBO and those
did.
scramble channels?
Yeah.
Did you know anyone?
Well, there were some channels that were scrambled, and I would try to watch them and see what was going on.
Did you ever figure out the secrets to unscrambling them?
No.
So those.
Sometimes I would just listen.
Yeah, listen and look. I remember I told the story before, but I stole cable when I lived in the UK, and this kid Pete used to go into my. I used to let everyone watch TV in my room because I was the only one with TV, and there was some dirty channels, but they were scrambled. And I found this kid in my room once, and he goes, "I don't know if that's an elbow or a titty, but I love it." I was like, "Oh God, get out of here!" But those dial boxes, you could jimmy with a paperclip. There was a slot in the back,
Okay.
and it would descramble everything. It was very easy. Yeah, there was the flipping technique. Some people, if you flipped up and down quickly, it would unscramble. It was pretty exciting.
We have to go back.
Yeah. Did you know anyone with a satellite dish?
No.
That was like heaven in 1983 because they got everything.
No, I had no idea.
Oh man.
I mean, I felt like having cable and HBO was.
it's a
and
big deal.
Cinemax was. Yeah.
Were you the only kind of
Showtime.
Oh, you had everything.
Yeah.
Were you kind of the only?
I mean, we
family?
didn't have the private channel.
No,
We
you didn't have
Playboy.
Playboy. Yeah, but you had. I mean, Cinemax, HBO. So you could have watched SCTV on Cinemax.
Oh.
They ran the.
I mean, I did pick a Showtime
special.
series. A series on here.
Oh, is it Brothers?
No, it's Bizarre.
Oh, Bizarre, which was Canadian. We'll get to that in a moment. Then. So Diff'rent Strokes, and then at 8:30, what'd you go with?
Silver Spoons.
There's only two things on at 8:30 on Saturday. It's Silver Spoons and a show called The Third Eye on Nickelodeon, which is what I would have watched. It was amazing. It was an anthology show where they just showed Australian and British children's sci-fi shows. So there was a thing called Children of the Stones that was terrifying. There was a thing called Under the Mountain. It was just that super creepy 70s foreign kids shows, and they showed it under this banner of The Third Eye. But it was that or Silver Spoons. Tonight on Silver Spoons, Ricky joins in when his friends gang up on Freddy. Oh, it's the phone.
Ah, special guest. Who is our mystery caller?
Who is that?
Or did you say the magic word?
Yeah. Ricky joins in when his friends gang up on Freddy, played by one of my favorite named actors of all time, Corky Pigeon, an inept classmate who's shattered to overhear Rick denying their friendship.
I mean, that's a classic plot.
And it's got Bateman as Derek.
I thought
in
we
it.
were friends.
Yeah, those shows used to break my heart when people were mean to someone.
But I
as a
got to be
kid.
cool, so I gotta pretend I'm not friends with you.
Yeah. And there's a scene where, like, in front of everybody, he makes fun of him.
Jason Bateman was a jerk.
Oh, he was such a dick.
He was the
Derek,
heel?
Yeah.
Is that what they say in
He was
wrestling
the
terms?
guy you love to hate. But it's why he got It's Your Move. He got a spin-off show.
Exactly.
Because he was the breakout character that season.
I loved Silver Spoons. I mean, the kid had it was his dad, really, who drove the train set through the house.
Yeah.
Aaron Gray.
Oh,
I had
yes.
a huge crush on Aaron Gray.
Yes. Her daughter went to Emerson, looked just like her.
Really?
She used to bartend at the what was that?
Is she working right now?
No, I think she graduated. But she used to work at that bar that Lamont Price hung out at all the time, Sweetwater.
Okay.
She was a bartender there.
Interesting.
Looked exactly like Aaron Gray.
That would be freaky.
Super weird. Yeah. Lamont somewhere has a photo of him hugging her.
It's like Leah Thompson's daughter is now an
Oh yeah,
an
she looks
actress.
exactly like her as
Yeah.
well. Yeah. It's very strange.
But also in 1983, I resembled Ricky Schroeder.
Oh, I could see that.
lot.
I could see that.
Not as much now.
Yeah.
But
Well,
back
you
then
kind
I
of look
did.
like Ricky Schroeder now. You don't look like him then now, but you look like
Like,
him now.
One time, my friends and I, not in '83. This was a few years later. We were at Riverside Park,
Rock and roll in Riverside.
which you now know as Six Flags.
Yep.
But it was Riverside Park, and these two girls came up to me thinking I was Ricky Schroeder.
Oh, was that much look like him?
And my friends, I tried to tell them no, but my friends
Yeah.
loved the idea.
Come on, Ricky, give her an autograph. That kind of thing.
Yeah, so they followed us around the park.
Did you sign something for her?
No.
Oh, come on. Was she much younger than you?
I was an innocent.
You didn't want to lie?
No.
I
was too embarrassed.
I've very rarely been mistaken for a celebrity. I did. Last time I was in England, I was in an HMV store in the Midlands, and some person insisted that I was Jimmy Carr.
Oh, okay.
It was very odd. Yeah,
I could
but
see
I
how
was
someone
like,
might say that.
Yeah, that's
The only recent one I've gotten was Zach Galifinakis.
okay. That's
But I
not a
think that's
bad
just
one.
the beard and the belly.
It could be that shirt that you wear a lot that says "I'm Zach Galifinakis" that you got from a Halloween costume that had a Zach Galifinakis mask.
That was not the college bill. That was
No,
Ben Cooper.
It was Ben Cooper. They licensed it from him.
It was a Zach trash bag.
Yes. How that would, because comedians have a lot of merch now. I bet Galifianakis would sell a lot of those if he sold a Ben Cooper style Zach Galifianakis Halloween costume.
I bet there were costumes for The Hangover.
Yeah, but they probably weren't that kind of costume. I'm
No, they
talking
were
like a
probably
full-on Sweat Hogs
Sweat
style costume.
Hey, Miss Cutter!
What it is? 9 o'clock. What'd you go with?
9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, I went with Love Boat and Fantasy Island.
That you have to do it.
Well, I was either watching them or I was with a babysitter who watched them.
Yeah. Did you enjoy them though, or did you feel like you were getting away with something?
Love Boat, I remember Charo from Love Boat.
She was on Love Boat a lot.
From Love Boat a lot. Fantasy Island always scared me.
We'll get to that in a moment.
Yeah,
guys, I'm curious.
this
But
week's
this
Fantasy
Love Boat, oh boy.
I know, there's a lot going on.
A
in both these
divorcing
episodes.
couple played by Stella Stevens and Kevin McCarthy of
Yep.
UHF and
No
Invasion of
relation.
the Body Snatchers. No,
He was also in the Twilight Zone movie.
also in the Twilight Zone movie, and in the Twilight Zone,
Right.
who spent most of their marriage as sparring partners, decide they'll go another round before the final papers come. A do-gooder, played by Paul Kreppel, my Facebook friend, hires a sex therapist, played by Donna Pescow, also my Facebook friend, to help, and this is where I'm shocked that they use this word, to help an impotent man.
Impotent.
Yeah, a sex therapist to help someone who's impotent
Yep.
is a plot device on Love Boat, and a convention of the Royal Order of Rhinos is aboard the honor of Rhino of the Year. That sounds like a pretty exciting episode.
Rhino's just like a TV alternate version of like the Elks.
Elks, yeah, like the Buffalo
Like
Order.
we can't call you.
Yeah, we can't officially call it that. But then Fantasy Island that night.
Oh man, I don't even know.
Ooh.
I can't even imagine this episode based on this plot description.
It is one of the shortest descriptions I've ever seen, and it also, normally Fantasy Island has several different
Right,
fantasies.
there's usually like 3.
This just has one. And it's a grateful patient, played by Peter Graves, treats his nurses to their wildest fantasies. One of the nurses is played by Joanna Cassidy from Blade Runner, who I've met. Very, very sweet. She's in that show. It's a new show. It's a show on E! With Abby Elliott called something Mothers.
Bravo?
Is it Bravo?
Odd Mom Out.
Odd Mom Out. Yes, she's in that show with her now. And I love her.
Well, I guess the multiple fantasies are the different nurses. Each have their wildest fantasy.
But this sounds so Playboy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that was a thing.
It's very weird. But did you think Mr. Rourke was the devil, or did you think he was divine?
I was scared of him, and this was even before. Was this the same year, 1983, as Khan?
I think Khan might have been 82. Maybe.
Yeah, so he was in prime.
It was Star
scary
Trek
mode.
2, right?
Yeah, Star Trek 2: The Wrath of Khan. So this was very.
Blah, blah.
Yeah, so he was.
Yeah.
I mean, even though he said rich Corinthian leather.
Yeah, he's speaking of SCTV, they have.
He was so scary.
Do you ever see that sketch where they have the Ricardo Montalban School of Fine Acting? And it's Eugene Levy. He's like, fine acting.
Rich Corinthian leather.
Yeah, he's just teaching everyone to just talk with his accent, basically.
The Lincoln you did it.
Is a Lincoln? Yeah, I think it was a Lincoln Town Car.
Yeah,
Fine.
rich Corinthian leather.
Corinthian leather. Yes.
But I mean, I was a really short kid, so I liked shows. I mean, you know, I watched Diff'rent Strokes.
Yep.
I identified with Gary Coleman.
Yeah.
Tattoo.
You identified with Tattoo?
Well, I just liked short. I
Yeah.
mean, he was. I mean,
He was terrifying.
he was. Hervé Villachez.
Yeah.
He was. Yeah, he was. He was in a Bond movie too.
He was in The Man with the Golden Gun, right?
Yeah.
He was Christopher Lee's assistant. Yeah. He was a terrifying man. He used to pull guns on people all the time. Fine art painter. Yeah. In a series of Dunkin' Donuts commercials.
He was the Vern Troyer of his day.
I feel like he was more layered than Vern Troyer.
Right. Well, I mean, you know, when you're cloning, the future iterations
He was
lose a little of the luster of the.
He was probably the most famous little person of the 80s, maybe tied with Warwick Davis after Willow.
I mean, there was Mishu, the clown from Ringling Brothers.
Yeah, but he was, I mean, maybe in the
the
New York,
world's
maybe in the
most-
tri-state area, he was very big, but I'm thinking that on a national scale, it had to be either Hervé or Warwick Davis in the 80s. Yeah. Billy Barty was a 70s little person. And then in the 90s, Vern Troyer must have been it. I guess we could maybe, if we count
Paul Williams?
Zelda Rubinstein. I don't think Paul Williams is an official little
right,
person.
he's tall enough to not
Yeah.
be an official little person.
Also 70s.
Yeah.
But I maybe Zelda Rubinstein, who was from Poltergeist.
Oh, right.
Caroline.
Go into the light.
Yeah, she's an official little
Into the
person.
light.
Write in, everybody, and tell me who you think the most famous. If I was a radio call-in show, I'd be like, "We're talking about who was the most famous little person of the '80s. We're taking calls here." Sean, Connecticut.
Well, Webster was also on. in
Emmanuel
1980.
Lewis, who's also been on this show.
Oh.
Yeah, that's true. Gary Coleman.
I didn't really watch Webster though.
You took your side and you went different strokes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fair enough. Sunday night, the Lord's night.
Yes.
What are we watching 8 o'clock?
Well, I mean, I was already watching The Muppet Show in 60 Minutes before 8 o'clock.
Yeah. Did you watch this with your family?
Yeah, my
60
parents. Yeah. No, I wasn't watching 60 Minutes by myself.
Well, some kids did.
My parents are watching football. I'm like, no. I need
Can we
me
put
some.
60 Minutes on, please?
I need me some Morley Safer.
All kids love Morley Safer. But the news shows used to scare me because they were real. So the only show I wasn't allowed to watch was 2020.
Okay.
Anything else I could watch, and it was mostly because I annoyed my parents because I'd be like, "Don't go to that ATM" and that kind of stuff.
I went with well, okay. See, I did watch a lot of sports.
Yep.
But and my parents were Penn State grads. And
Okay.
Penn State had a football game
Okay.
that night. So if I was with my parents, we were probably watching the Penn State football game. But I also would have gone with the CBS lineup of Alice.
Wow. So you forsook Knight Rider.
Oh, yeah, I didn't really watch Knight Rider.
Yeah, and this episode, speaking...
There's some very popular shows in the 1980s that I
didn't
did not
go with.
I did not.
Yeah, you went with sort of the 70s holdover sitcoms that night.
Well, I mean, I really am a child of the 70s.
Yeah, so you grew up with the old guard.
Yeah.
And Knight Rider, I just want to mention, though, because of how much we talked about how appropriate the cover of this issue is.
Yeah. What was
The
going on?
Knight Rider episode that night is Michael investigates a shady businessman who's exploiting illegal aliens.
Ooh.
Presented without comment.
I wonder what the illegal alien problem was like in 1983.
It was pretty bad. It was, there was a lot of exposés about it.
I mean, that's one thing growing up in a very white, quiet suburban town in Connecticut. You don't.
The angle on it, though, was that these people are
You don't
being
think about
exploited. It wasn't that these people are raping us and stealing our jobs.
Right.
It was more sympathetic to their
Okay.
plight. That's how I remember it, at least. Maybe others may not.
Okay.
But so Alice that night is Alice's dinner date with a high school flame, played by Dennis Houlihan, who's now blind, turns in a delightful trip down sensory lane. That's what I am not editorializing. That is what they said. Yeah.
You know, this is. I don't know how often you have this thought raced through your head, but for all the talk that people have about today's sitcoms being crass and sexual, this is such a healthy reminder that even generations ago.
I feel like the thing I always try to put into context is context and intent. You
Yeah.
know, I think that doing a show about a blind person, they probably were trying to legitimately talk about the plight of someone with a disability, but I know there absolutely was probably jokes at their expense.
Right.
But I feel like now it's very difficult to make a show completely sincerely, and there's a lot more jokes at people's expense maybe when they come in. I don't know. It's, as a critic, what is your... You probably watch more modern stuff than I do. But, like, I look at a show like Two Broke Girls, which all the jokes are like, hey, where were you? Oh, I was down the street. Oh, he's sucking everybody off? Like, that's every single joke on that show.
Right, it's all innuendo.
Yeah. But now there's not, like, a lot of, like, we're laughing because someone's in a wheelchair, which happened in a lot of shows.
Or we're laughing because you were impotent, but now the sex worker.
You had a sex therapist, played by Donna Pascal, from Saturday Night Fever. And,
right.
Yep. And was also the mom on Out of This World. Been on the cover of TV Guide.
I just like kiss my grits.
Yeah. 9 o'clock. Did you go with the Women of San Quentin, or were you watching some made-for-TV movie with Stella Stevens again?
I wish I had, but I probably was watching One Day at a Time.
Yeah, One Day at a Time. This is the opening of his new dental office. Give Mark such a case of the jitters that he may give up his practice before the first patient walks in the door.
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah, were you a Valerie Bertinelli guy? Or...
Yeah.
Yeah, I think everybody was. She's... Even Eddie Van Halen.
I don't know what happened in that relationship, but I blame Eddie.
Oh, I'm sure it's Eddie's fault. Yeah, I've still never heard anything that she's ever done anything wrong. But there is a made-for-TV movie. This is the premiere. The Women of San Quentin are female correctional officers in this made-for-TV movie filmed at Colorado Territorial Correctional Facility. Stella Stevens, Debbie Adams, Amy Steele, Yaphet Kotto, Hector Elizondo, Rosanna DeSoto, and Greg Henry are in this movie. It was a failed pilot for a series.
Yaphet Kotto is in one of my favorite all-time movies, Midnight Run.
That movie bums me out.
Really?
I mean, it's a scary movie. Oh, I'm thinking Midnight Express.
That's
Turkish prison.
That's a completely different
Midnight Run
movie.
is Charles Grodin.
Yeah, Charles Grodin, Robert De Niro.
There's no prison rape in that movie.
No.
Yes, I was thinking Midnight Express. Midnight Run, much better movie. That's why I was like, Sean, that's a pretty weird
Yaphet Kotto
movie.
is the FBI guy who's on
Yeah.
there.
My favorite movies are Deliverance, Midnight Express. I'm like, okay. Yeah, no, Midnight Run is a good movie. Yeah.
The Accused.
The Accused. Yaphet Kotto's also in A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 6, Freddy's Dead, in 3D. He's the magical black man that teaches her about 3D glasses.
Oh, Bagger Vance.
Yes. Yaphet Kotto, also Facebook friends with me. There's also a documentary on that night called Kiri T. Kananawa, a documentary on the New Zealand-born soprano who is seen singing a Maori lullaby and recording an album of Puccini arias.
I did not see that.
No, that's on the Arts Channel.
Oh, yeah, I didn't watch that.
Goodnight Beantown is on don't know if you ever
I
watched
don't
that.
even remember that show.
That
That was a sitcom, right?
It was a sitcom. Did not last long. It's Bill Bixby, and he is playing
Post Hulk.
Hulk. Remember Chet and Natalie? Did you get them down in Connecticut?
No. They were the ABC.
Anchor. Yeah, the local ABC
Oh,
anchors.
this is what I last night when I checked into my hotel room before I went out for the evening, I got to watch the local evening news on a Friday, so it was the regular cruise. And I'm amazed how all of the people are still around, but some of them are on different stations.
Yeah.
They just kind of move around.
Oh, yeah. And they, like the older people, they go to the older station.
Yeah.
So we had Chet and Natalie. They were the news anchors.
On
and they
Channel
were,
5.
Channel 5, and they were married.
Right.
And it was
They
very
were a huge
unusual.
deal in Boston.
Huge deal. And so Hollywood licensed their story. And so this show was about married news anchors.
Get out of here.
They weren't named Chet and Natalie, but it was based on them.
Wait, was it a sitcom or a drama?
It was weird. It was a single camera, no laugh track, half-hour sitcom. So sometimes it was dramatic.
I thought we were led to believe that none of those happened before Frank's Place.
Oh no, the original Bill Cosby show in '72 was a single camera, no laugh track sitcom.
Well, now we know why.
Well, yeah, he didn't want anyone around to witness it, but there were a fair amount at that time for years. I mean, it wasn't very popular, but there
Goodnight
certainly were some.
Beantown was okay. That's
Yeah.
what.
Goodnight Beantown.
Now the
was
title
one.
makes a bunch of sense. Now.
And because that's how they would sign off.
Right.
And there is an episode I remember where a guy with a bomb strapped to him takes the station hostage, which had happened in real life on a couple of different news stations at that time.
In Boston? Or
Not
somewhere
in Boston. My favorite one is this guy David Horowitz, not the weird right-wing writer, but a different David Horowitz.
The consumer
guy.
I remember that
from
guy.
Fight Back.
Yeah.
And he was the news anchor in LA, and a guy came in with a gun live on the air and made him read a statement. And the footage is on YouTube. You can see it. And he is the most badass. He does not even bat an eyelash. He's like, okay. And he just reads this thing. And then the last line in the statement is, this is not a real gun. And he takes the gun from the guy. And I'm like, wow. So there was a lot of that at the time. But this one is Jenny considers quitting after interviewing a woman who, unbeknown to Jenny, has just learned that her missing husband was found dead.
Who played the TV version of Chet now?
Marriott Hartley
Okay.
and Bill Bixby. They were the
right.
yeah,
Okay.
so they were the
Maybe
couple.
I probably did watch that then.
Didn't last long. It was kind of like
I probably do remember that though.
yeah, it was a kind of a fun show. Then we have the Singing Family Feud special was on that day.
Yeah, or was it a day or was it a full week?
Was on all this week. Yeah, that's right. The Lennon sisters, Sister Sledge, the McRaes, and the King family.
I watched a lot of Family Feud, but I don't remember the. Well,
I
I guess
don't
they
remember
didn't sing. I guess it was just the singing
families.
groups.
Yeah,
Right.
Richard Dawson. I'm sure he kissed them all.
Yeah.
And you watched Bizarre that night at 9:35.
Well, I probably would have. I mean,
Boobs.
Bizarre. I remember the two things I remember about that was it was a comedy show on cable, so it had boobs.
Yep.
But then it also had Super Dave Osborne.
It was where we got Super Dave Osborne. It was the first thing he ever did, and it was a Canadian co-production, and it was basically a sketch show.
Yeah.
And
What was the guy's
yeah,
name?
his name was Bob.
Bob.
I can't think of his name now. But
And we're not googling.
yeah, he was a Canadian Canadian comedian, and the show was on for years.
Yeah.
And there was an adult version and a clean version, and Showtime
Oh, so they
had the
could
adult
play
version.
it on syndicated.
Yeah, and they would do the same sketches, but like the girls would be topless. It was really weird. But yeah, Bob Einstein first did Super Dave Osborne on Bizarre, and then Showtime gave him his own show from the Bizarre, the popularity of him on Bizarre.
You know, you talk about Chet and Natalie and the Boston people. Even though we had local news in Hartford, the one thing, our claim to fame is it was where Gail King got her start.
And Gail King is now on
CBS This Morning.
CBS This Morning.
But in between those two things, she became Oprah Winfrey's best friend.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. How do you get from Connecticut to Oprah Winfrey's best friend?
I don't know.
That's a weird. I'd like to hear her story.
Yeah.
Has she written a book?
I don't think she has.
She should. Let's pitch it.
Yeah.
We'll write it and then sell it to her. We'll just make up how we think it happened. We'll do speculative fiction about
But
Gail
I was trying
King.
to think of the Boston people tend to stay in Boston.
That's true of all Boston people.
Yeah. Comedians.
Not just news anchors.
Musicians.
Yeah. Criminals.
It's very provincial that way.
It is. It's a prison.
Well, or the other way to spin it would be it's the hub. So why would you leave the hub?
Well, you could call a prison a hub. We literally turned a prison into a hotel here. That's how much Boston people stay in Boston. That's literally a thing that happens.
Yeah, I had to come to you to get this done.
So Monday night, 8:00, as we approach.
Well, I mean, I would have
close to
watched the
Halloween.
Jeffersons.
Yeah, the Jeffersons is pretty great. Yeah, I mean,
I'm not gonna let you go completely skip over the Jeffersons.
yeah, I mean, again, the show.
I mean, I was born the son of a sharecropper.
Was he a sharecropper?
He liked to say, George, whenever he was being interviewed by anybody, because he was a successful
Right.
dry cleaning operator, he would always go, "I was born the son of a sharecropper," and then
That's
Weezy would
true.
go, "George."
Yeah, I thought you were saying that you were too. I was like,
No.
so you watched that show because
That just stuck with me.
you guys had something in common.
Whenever people ask me to tell my story,
I was born the son of a
yeah,
sharecropper.
it was either that or I was born a poor black child.
Born a poor black child. Had Carl Gottlieb who wrote that movie on the show. Yeah, the Jeffersons. This is, I think, maybe the last season. Again, another '70s holdover show. They didn't even bother to give us the description of the show that week.
Oh.
I'm 100% watching That's Incredible.
Oh, on Monday, yeah.
Yeah.
I was watching That's Incredible.
Segments on a sculptor who reconstructed the face of King Tut, a man who won $5 million after asking a friend to pick up a New York lotto ticket, a man who attempts to escape from a steel box underwater, a man who perfected a device to ease his granddaughter's circulatory problems.
Wait a second. How is it incredible that you asked a friend to buy a lottery ticket?
Because he won $5 million.
But that's...
Maybe he didn't split it with his friend.
yeah, I was like, what's the incredible? What's the incredible part of?
I mean, they had to fill that
that's pretty
show
credible.
every week.
That's
Yeah.
pretty.
That is a credible story.
I believe that story,
Yes.
John
Yeah.
Davidson.
Yeah, I watch that and Real People every week. I mean, I love those
Yeah.
shows. Yeah.
No, I mean, Real People's on a couple nights later.
What else do you go with? on Monday?
I probably watched Monday Night Football.
Okay.
But if I wasn't, I did watch Newhart.
I
all
love
the time.
Newhart.
I love
CBS
Newhart.
Monday was my night. This is the first season of Newhart. Stella Stevens guest starring on this show too. That's 3 shows this week. Stella Stevens is guest starring on, and we're only on Monday. She's literally guest starred on a different show every night for all 3 days of the
She
week.
should be on the cover of this TV guide.
She should be on the cover of every TV guide, up to and including today's TV guide. But she's a Newhart here. A luscious movie star wants to take Dick to bed. Will
Whoa.
he or won't he? And that was Newhart's name. They weren't just being really lewd. I do want to say it's Fright Week on TV 56 because it's Halloween week.
Right.
And they're showing the movie He Knows You're Alone from 1980. Have you ever seen that movie?
No, I have not.
Comedy connection with that movie. It is the screen debut of Tom Hanks.
Really?
Yep. Yeah. He was doing dabbling in a little stand up in New York at that time. And
Was he preparing for Punchline?
No, that was 7 years later. But he shows up in this movie as a friend who gets murdered. He knows you're alone.
Interesting. You know what also struck me as interesting going through this TV guide is that the season premieres were at the end of October.
Yeah, I think, and I might be wrong, I think there was a writer's strike in 1983. So they pushed everything back. I think someone will correct me, I'm sure, but if memory serves, it was either 82 or 83, but I think it was 83. So everything got pushed back to the end of October for whatever weird reason. What else? Where are we? Monday night still?
Yeah, Monday night.
Where are we, 9 o'clock? Or did you go Faulty Towers at 8:30?
No, I was probably watching Monday Night Football.
All night?
Yeah.
It's the New York Giants versus St. Louis Cardinals. That's football, right?
Yeah.
I thought the Cardinals were a baseball team.
That's also a thing.
You can do that?
Yeah.
I didn't know you could do that.
Some cities would double up.
Oh, so St. Louis has a baseball and a football team called the Cardinals?
Well, they no longer have the football team.
Was it the same people? Because that would be amazing.
No.
I feel like if
I think just for continuity, they would.
You have to be a Bo Jackson if you live in St. Louis. How great would that be? A whole team of Bo Jacksons that were a football and a baseball team?
And yet his baseball was in Kansas City and his football was in California.
And those seasons overlap, don't they?
Yeah.
How did he do that?
Well, he didn't play a full season of either.
What if we found out Bo Jackson was a twin? And he was actually, there was different Bo Jacksons. I think we could blow this wide open. All right, here's the movie we're pitching, right? A guy who has twins, but has lived his whole life as one person, plays 2 sports, but it's really 2 guys, and he gets exposed.
Is it called Bogo Jackson?
It's called Who Brought Bo?
I only learned recently that BOGO is a
Yeah,
thing.
buy one, get one.
Yeah.
Yeah, buy one Bo Jackson, get one Bo Jackson. That's a little bit too slavery-ish. I'm sorry, everybody. People, this might have been a Massachusetts thing, but people would say if someone came in and they had real bad BO, Someone would ask who brought Bo Jackson, who brought Bo Diddley. They'd say that for BO. Yeah. There is a movie I'm absolutely watching because it stars Jane Seymour, who I love.
Not The Exorcist? You weren't watching The Exorcist?
I'm not watching The Exorcist. I've seen it many, many times.
The Exorcist still scares me.
I've been to the Stairs. You ever been to the Stairs?
No, but I was just thinking about the Stairs recently.
Yeah, I was in D.C.
Because I was in L.A. and my friends were talking about hiking steps.
And you were like, I don't want to Father Karras myself down these stairs. Yeah. I went to the Stairs that they filmed that in Washington, D.C. I have photos. I'll share them with you, whether you want me to or not.
The World According to Garp also scared me.
Why?
I think...
Robin Williams?
No, I think there's a scene at the end, especially as a 12-year-old, there's a scene at the end where someone is getting pleasured.
Right.
And then they get in a car accident.
Oh, okay. So were you scared of being pleasured or of car accidents?
I was scared of someone biting off part of my anatomy.
Yeah, that would be terrifying.
Yeah.
So that's why you don't drive.
That's why I don't have sex.
Yes.
I'm asexual. Because I want to keep all of my parts.
I want to keep all my parts.
Eddie Murphy's HBO special was on?
Yes. This was 83. This was really when he started
His
to
first
get
one.
huge.
Yeah. This was Delirious.
Delirious. He did it over the summer between SNL seasons. He, and you may know this better than I do, but I believe he's the only SNL cast member to host while a cast member. I believe they had someone cancel in 82 or 83. He hosted because he had just done 48 Hours, I think, over the summer. It was a huge hit. And he hosted the show.
I thought he hosted because someone canceled.
Yeah, they had him host,
Yeah.
instead of getting like someone else at the last minute.
We skipped over this past weekend Saturday Night Live. John Candy was the host.
Yes.
Speaking of SCTV.
Yeah, and this was when 83 was when Loren Michaels was doing the new show. Which was actually called The New Show.
Right.
Pete loves it. And John Candy was a cast member.
And so is Steve Martin.
Jeff Goldblum, and Alan Havey.
Oh, Alan Havey was
Yeah, Alan Havey was a cast member of The New Show. It was really bizarre. It only lasted about 6 episodes.
Yeah.
It was very weird.
How did that not happen?
It just wasn't... It ended up becoming what Saturday Night Live was in 86 when Loren Michaels came back, but it just didn't fly. And John Candy hosting was one of the better episodes of that 80 to 85 SNL. There's a really funny sketch, though, from The New Show with John Candy, who plays a food repairman. You can see it on YouTube these days, but it's like people going into a little mom and pop shop and they're like, I bought these chips and a lot of them are broken. Mm-hmm. And he'll look at them and be like, all right, I can fix these. I fix these for you. And it's just him like, it's a really weird sketch. But it's very much like 86 SNL, but in 83.
Joe Piscopo is running for governor of New Jersey, by the way.
Yeah, he's not someone I like. We prank phone called him when I was a kid. We got his phone number when I was about 13.
What did you say?
I said, Mr. Piscopo? And he said, yes. I said, this is the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office. We have your career. We'd like you to identify the body. And he was like, fuck you. Yeah.
April Fools.
Yeah, it wasn't even in April. It was just, we were just being mean. But this Jane Seymour movie is
what was it, Jane Seymour?
Called The Haunting Passion. And it's her and Gerald McRaney.
I did meet Jane Seymour once.
Did you?
Yeah.
Was she stunning?
Yeah.
What did she smell like? Can we get creepy? I'd like to meet her. I love everything she's done, but
it was a thing for Bond in New York City. It was right when I was moving from Boston to New York.
They were doing like a Bond girl retrospective. Yeah. Miriam Dabo there as well.
No,
just Jane Seymour.
There was Jane Seymour and like 2 other Bond women, but I just remember Jane Seymour.
Of course. This is She Fears Him. She senses him. She loves him. She wants him. A man she's never seen. The Haunting Possession is an eerie made-for-TV movie about a wife possessed by a spectral lover. I want to see that now. I might watch that tonight. Is that everything we have on Monday?
There was I did note that the Tonight Show was in repeats.
Yes.
There were new Dave Lettermans, although I don't think I was staying up that late at that point.
This was the first year, I think, of late night with Letterman. He had the morning show for 2 or 3 years before that, but I think 83 was the first year he did the late night show. So this would have been the second season of the first show.
But I was not staying up that late at 12 years old.
Did you guys have a VCR?
But I did notice that not in 83.
Okay.
But I did notice that the Tonight Show repeat on Monday night was from 1981 with Jerry Seinfeld.
Yes. Yeah, who was on a ton.
Which might have been his first.
81? Yeah, it could have been.
And then also, speaking of hanging out in Boston with my grandfather, at 11 o'clock weeknights on Channel 56 was Benny Hill.
Which you watched, your grandfather loved?
My grandfather would let me watch Benny Hill. My grandmother would be asleep in another room.
Did he love
my grandfather would let me, he would let me watch Benny Hill. He also had these joke books that now seem very not politically correct.
Tasteless joke books?
They were like for different ethnicities. So there was like the Irish joke book, the Italian joke book, the Polish joke book.
Yeah.
And he would but he would go through and he would write little X's on the pages that I couldn't read.
Which were the first ones you went to, right?
I'm like, how am I supposed to just skip a page?
Do you remember any of the jokes?
They were all pretty like street.
It's a safe place here. Like, Polish screen door submarines, that kind of stuff. I imagine.
They were like paragraph long jokes.
Oh, jeez. A man goes to the doctor. Like
Right.
those kind of
Yeah,
jokes. I remember people had those sick joke books. I think that's what they were called.
Yeah.
That were all dead baby jokes.
Yeah.
The only one of those I remember is what's grosser than 10 dead babies in a barrel?
I don't know. What is grosser?
1 dead baby in 10 barrels.
Ooh,
Yeah, they were
that is
always
gross.
dead baby jokes.
Ooh.
I don't really know why that was a thing, but oh well. On that dead baby note, we move on to Tuesday, October 25th.
Guess who's back? Richie Cunningham is back on
Yep.
Happy Days.
Yep. This is, I believe, the last season of Happy Days.
Was that when the Fonz had that girlfriend named Heather, or the girl was called Heather or
I
something?
think so. I had definitely stopped watching.
He got
it.
domesticated. He moved in with this woman, and he.
This is way post Jumping the Shark. This is when they stopped even pretending the show took place in the 1950s.
Right.
They were just like, it doesn't matter. Nobody cares anymore.
It's just
Yeah.
show
Ron Howard's back in town.
with a mustache.
Yeah, that would have been a big deal. And no one had a mustache in the 50s.
Oh.
This was right after he directed Night Shift. He was the director
Before
now.
Cocoon?
Yeah, because Cocoon was 85.
Oh, right, because Cocoon had Tom Hanks.
Yeah. Cocoon? Was it Cocoon? Tom Hanks in Cocoon?
Tom Hanks and John Candy and Daryl Hannah.
Splash.
Oh, Splash.
Yeah.
Why are we thinking about Cocoon?
Cocoon was Raquel Welch's daughter is in it, and
Jessica Tann.
Brian Dennehy. Is it Brian Dennehy? I feel like Brian Dennehy's in that. Hume Cronin.
Cocoon Cronin.
Yeah,
You know what's
no,
crazy about
Splash.
Cocoon is the fact that those people that age is not considered old now.
No, none of the things that we considered old people then is not considered old now. Like the Golden Girls,
Yeah.
some of them were in like their 50s.
Right.
Can you imagine that show now?
I was talking to somebody about this. I think it's because if you lived through the Depression and World War II, it just aged you so much harder.
Well, yeah, and I think that people...
So people who were 60 then were like gray and beaten down.
Yeah, and they also grew up before there was teenagers. Because literally until the 50s, you were a child or an adult. So in a lot of ways, they were like an adult longer than a lot of people were. I think the longer that you're allowed to have an adolescence, where it keeps getting longer and longer, now you can be like basically a kid in your 30s. But it sort of has grown since the 50s. Like you could be a kid till you were in your 20s, and then you'd be a
You
kid
didn't have
till
to grow up.
Yeah, so I think when they turned 18, they were an adult.
Yeah.
And so they were, in a lot of weird ways, not chronologically, but they were an adult longer than most people were when we were growing up. To get social on get a little cultural studies. And my TV guide's falling apart.
Yeah.
Did you go Three's Company after that?
Yeah, I was a big Three's Company fan.
Jack hopes to retrieve a scathing letter he fired off to a restaurant critic before reading the critic's review of the bistro, which is surprisingly complimentary.
Classic miscommunication.
Yep. Yeah.
The basis for any Three's Company episode.
Every Three's Company, but it's weirdly not very sexual for a
No,
Three's Company
because he had moved
episode.
on. He had the restaurant now.
Yeah.
He had a girlfriend.
This is before Three's a Crowd, which would be the next season.
Yeah.
They changed the show to Three's a Crowd.
So this would be past Chrissy. This would be past.
Yep. Pam,
Probably Priscilla the nurse.
Priscilla Barnes was the last
The nurse?
roommate. Yeah, yeah.
She was probably the third roommate.
The Scooby Dumb Chrissy was gone as well.
I met Larry Klein once.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was working as an elevator operator at the Space Needle in Seattle.
Of course.
Yeah, that job had its ups and downs.
Yep.
Boom, boom,
Boom, boom, boom.
And one time I had a crowded elevator of teenagers, and they were making a whole bunch of noise, and I'm going through my whole spiel.
Yeah.
And this voice in the back shushes them and says, "Please be quiet and allow this gentleman to."
Defended
his
by
work.
Larry.
And then as the kids come out, I see it's Larry. I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh, thank you very much."
The Regal Beagle himself comes
Yeah.
to your defense. It was, he just does that. He just goes to like museum tours to defend
the honor of the
tour
the true
guides.
street performers. I
Yes.
mean, it was an art, you know.
That is a tough gig. Teenage girls, especially, are some of the most evil people on earth, and they will be cruel.
They're even crueler when they get older and become a bachelorette party.
That's true. Yeah, the bachelorette parties are just teenage girls grown up. That's actually just a literal description,
Yes.
but also figuratively it's true as well.
That's when they become women.
Yes. So you did that, and then what'd you do? 9:30. Did you go with Madeline Kahn's show?
I don't remember any of the shows other than those.
Madeline didn't last very long, and it was
Is that Madeline Kahn?
Madeline Kahn. Yeah, it was.
I don't remember those shows.
It's like a half
I was
a
looking
season.
at Tuesdays, and
Yeah.
I was like, I don't remember these shows.
It did not last long, but it was very slapstick. There's an episode I remember where she's trapped in her car in the garage for the whole episode, and it's just her until like her family gets home, and it's her just trying to get out of this car in like various wacky ways. Wednesday, would you go with?
Real People.
Yeah, Real People. As I said before, you gotta go. This is a Halloween show. So I'm super on board. Includes a man who wears a red gorilla suit and lives in a, quote, flying saucer, a sci-fi ball held in San Diego, a quote-unquote warlock who sculpts alien creatures, and Los Angeles TV horror show host Elvira,
Aww.
also former guest of the show.
Yeah, Elvira's been a guest of the show.
Yeah, that I distinctly actually remember watching that episode of Real People.
Was that when Elvira went national?
She had not gone national yet,
But being on Real People?
She was on Real People. She was on TV's Bloopers and Practical Jokes.
I
And
watched
the
that
Fall
show a
Guy.
lot. I didn't watch The Fall Guy that much, but I watched Bloopers and Practical Jokes.
So it really, her being, I mean, every town more or less had a horror host.
And then she got the beer commercials.
She got the Coors Light commercials in
Yeah.
'84, I think. That was before they started moving.
We can just stop and go back and listen to that episode with Elvira.
Yes, absolutely. But being based in Los Angeles,
Mr.
she's got a lot of
Simmons.
guest starring roles on these national
Yeah.
shows, and that's how people sort of found out about her. She was on Fantasy Island as well.
Of course
before
she
that.
was.
So Real People, I'm absolutely on board.
Who would have guessed watching Real People in 1983 that out of all the people on that show, William Stevenson, was that a thing?
Yeah.
That Byron Allen would turn out to be like a entertainment mogul.
Which is weird too, because he purports to be a comedian.
Yeah.
Does he do stand up?
I think he was doing stand up when he got the show. He was a young stand up comedian.
Okay.
And he was hired for Real People.
Weird. Like Fred Willard, who was on Real People as well.
Yeah.
That was the weirder show that did do more sort of comedy segments. So I guess, Byron Allen was not the guy I would pick out to be the breakout star of Real People.
Well, Real People was like America's Got Talent,
yeah.
sort of, but
Pretty
without
much.
the contest portion.
It was more of like a news magazine too.
Yeah. But can you believe all the weird...
Yeah.
America has people.
Yeah, That's Incredible would get people into the studio. And
That's Incredible was more like the Guinness Book of World Records.
Yeah, but Real People was more like, check this out.
And
This
I always
guy's married to a dog.
And as a kid, I always had like Guinness Book of World Records and like Book of Lists.
Yep,
and
as did I.
That's
Scholastic
actually
Book Club.
my broadcasting career. I started. I was on the PA system of our elementary school, and I would do trivia, where I would pull stuff out of the Book of Lists or the World Records.
Did people ever get it?
I don't remember. I think I was so self-involved that I don't.
Right.
I just remember being able to be on the PA.
On the
system.
PA. Do you have a favorite Guinness World Record? I mean, mine's an obvious one. The Fat Twins.
Really?
The Fat Twins on the scooters.
I think as a short kid, I was always fascinated by the giants.
Oh yeah. Have you ever
How do you
gone?
get to be that tall?
Is it the Ripley's Museum in Times Square? They have the statue of the tallest man.
I have walked by there so many times to go to the movie theater.
Yeah.
The AMC Empire 25. But I've never gone inside.
There's actually a theater
the
in there.
Ripley's.
There's a nice, cool, small theater in there
Huh.
that I was going to do a show at once, but they almost never use it. There's
And then
like
there's
a cool
the Wax
space.
Museum is
Yeah.
next to it too.
Hollywood
They now have a
Museum.
Leslie Jones
Oh, weird.
in a Ghostbusters.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that Ghostbusters. So
Paul Feig just did an April Fool's joke where he said he was doing an all-female
Back to the Future. Yeah, the future we deserve. I bet people thought it was real and freaked out.
Marie McFly.
Yes. Would he go?
Um,
would Marie McFly go back and still have a relationship with her own mother? That I feel like you could do that now.
Yeah.
Anyway, we won't get into that.
No.
9 o'clock would you go with? This was tough for me.
Wait, was that Facts of Life?
Facts of Life is on, and it's a Halloween Facts of Life.
Yeah, no, I definitely watched Facts of Life. I watched Facts of Life into the moving into that coffee shop.
Over our heads.
Was that what it's called?
Yeah, well, Edna's Edibles.
I don't remember George Clooney being on it, but
he was on.
although
one
I
season.
now know enough trivia to know that he was on that.
That's my favorite era of Facts of Life. But this is before that. They have Edna's Edibles, which is her bake shop.
Okay.
It's Halloween, and the girls fear that Mrs. Garrett is possessed when a customer, played by Ian Wolfe, he was a very old man, and they tried to make him a reoccurring character named Mr. Lazzaroni, and it's
I remember that name.
yeah,
Mr. Lazarus.
and he was the only Facts of Life character they tried to give a catchphrase to.
What was his catchphrase?
Amazing. So they had him say it all the time. He says it in this episode. And this is when a customer mysteriously disappears and 25 pounds of much needed ground meat suddenly appears. So they go full on Sweeney Todd with this episode.
Did he
Yeah,
get turned into minced meat?
Yeah. Amazing.
I'm Facebook friends with Jerry Toole.
Oh, very nice. As am I. She was a great comic as well. Yeah. Some of her stuff very dirty.
Oh.
Which surprised me. I remember she had a joke that said, "My husband asked me, is that an orgasm or CP?" That was one of her jokes that I remember.
Palsy could be confused
for an
the
orgasm.
spasms of pleasure.
Yes, but don't do it driving.
No.
But here's why I was torn. There's a made-for-TV movie on that night. It's called Happy, starring Dom DeLuise.
Oh.
Happy is a one-time children's...
Who I only knew from the Cannonball Run movies.
That's a good way to know him. I mean, he is really funny. Fatso's really good. Mm-hmm. The End with the suicide movie with him and Burt Reynolds, really funny, weird movie. It's a comedy about two guys trying to kill themselves.
Okay.
But this is Happy is a one-time children's TV show host
who
makes news again as the chief witness and later desperate avenger of a homicide.
That sounds like a Law and Order episode now.
Yeah, DeLuise's son David plays Rogie in this semi-comic 1983 TV movie, who also employs his wife and two other sons in small parts. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe he wrote this movie. Dee Wallace is in it from E.T., Henry Silva. I would really like to see this. It sounds funny. A clown, former kids show host, vigilante murdering avenger, played by Dom DeLuise. I don't know how you could go wrong with that. Like, that sounds amazing. Amazing!
I feel like I should have seen that.
We should watch that now. Thursday night.
Yes.
8 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
What'd you go with?
Whoa. Whoa.
Give me a break?
Yeah. Nell Carter.
Nell Carter. A 6-year-old orphan, regular Joey Lawrence, with a winsome smile and a rip-off scheme up his sleeve, loses some of his charm when Nell and the girls are asked to mind him for a few days. This is the episode that introduces Joey Lawrence to the show.
Whoa.
I love Facts of Life.
I love Nell Carter.
Nell Carter's
There's
fantastic.
the grumpy white guy.
Dolph Sweet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dolph
Played.
Sweet.
Yep. He was Carl. Dolph Sweet. It was an amazing show. A really weird show.
Yeah.
I've revisited it and enjoyed it. Also, I believe the first 80s show to do a live episode.
Really?
They did a live episode on the East Coast and then did it live on the West Coast.
Was that what was the reasoning for that?
They just did it sort of as a stunt, but also most of the cast were theater people. Like Nell was a Broadway actress, and Dolph Sweet had done a lot of theater, so they were like, let's do it as a live broadcast. And it was kind of a fun, I remember being a really big event that they did that. It was kind of a big deal. And then Rock did that later. And eventually every episode of Rock was live. If you remember that, which was really
on the
odd.
fledgling Fox.
Yeah.
Network.
I think there's some sitcoms that have done that recently. I forget, New Girl maybe? Someone like that did a live episode. ER did a live episode.
Right.
That was pretty exciting. But I feel like a sitcom had done that in the last couple of years.
Well, Saturday Night Live is going to be... Oh, they're live all the time.
Yeah. They're going on tape.
No, they just made news because they were going to be, the rest of their season was going to be live on the West Coast.
Right, so they're going to do 2 episodes?
No, I think...
Oh, just be on earlier.
Yeah.
Okay.
They'll rebroadcast it later, but you can watch it in Los Angeles at 8:30 live.
Because they did a lot of... one of the things I collect is original East Coast broadcasts of SNL episodes because they changed so much. They take out sketches and replace them with rehearsal sketches. They
Right.
sweeten laughs. It's really interesting to
Yeah.
see some of those episodes as they were first broadcast because they are not the same as you remember them when you rewatch them. They do rewrite history sometimes.
do.
Yeah. So we're watching that. 8:30. What'd you go with?
Mama's Family.
The worst sitcom of all time.
My mother's parents loved Mama's Family.
It's terrible.
It was. Yeah.
I mean, this is the only season you could maybe call a good season. This is the first.
I was
season.
gonna say, was it the first?
Yeah, so this is when a lot of the people from the Carol Burnett show are on it.
Right.
It's one of 3
Because
shows.
Vicki Lawrence started her mama character on the Carol Burnett show.
Right. There's maybe the worst episode of Mama's Family ever, where she goes to a comedy club. Have you ever seen that episode?
Oh no, but now I want
She
to.
goes to see a stand-up
watch it
comic.
right now.
She heckles him,
Sure.
and he goes, "Hey, you think it's so easy? Why don't you get up here?" So she does, and kills, and becomes a stand-up comic. Yeah, it is.
I want to watch that episode right now.
It's watching it now is sort of amusing, but it's so terrible. But this was a show that got canceled and came back in first run syndication, along with Charles in Charge was the other one.
That was a big thing in the 80s was
Yep.
shows that did not succeed, but then because there were all these independent stations, you could rise from the dead.
Yeah, the 3 big
Before
ones.
Netflix. Before
yeah.
you rose from the dead on Netflix, you
could
rose from the dead on
syndication, first run syndication, and it was Charles in Charge, Maid, We Got It Made, and Mama's
Oh,
Family.
We Got It Made. I watched that one. Yeah.
I did enjoy that show. Terry Copley,
Yeah.
stunning.
Matt McCoy has been in a lot of weird things.
He has, yeah. He replaced Steve Guttenberg in the Police Academy movies.
Oh.
Yeah, and Tom Villard from One Crazy Summer, shot in Massachusetts with Tony V.
And Bob
Bobcat
Goldthwait.
Goldthwait, but Tom Villard no longer with us.
Demi Moore.
9 o'clock, We Got It Made. Mickey secretly enters the boys in a, quote, sexiest bachelor contest, and Jay, played by Tom Villard, starts living the part when he finds out he won. Stephanie Kramer was in this.
I think my dad and I later went to a taping of We Got It Made.
Really? In L.A.?
Yeah.
Wow, is it the only taping you had been to growing up?
I think on that same tour we went to a taping of Wheel of Fortune.
Which isn't as exciting. Did you get to meet it? Did you get to meet Vanna or Stephanie Kramer?
No.
So Stephanie Kramer, this was pre Hunter.
We weren't that ambitious.
Was that how were you amazed?
My mother's father also loved Hunter.
Yeah, I imagine that was a good.
Well, he was a
show.
Marine.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
Yeah, Hunter was one of the most hateful, violent cop shows ever. Fred Dreyer just friggin' thumps people every
My
second.
grandfather would pop some Pabst Blue Ribbon and
Just watch Hunter. Stephanie Kramer was quite a looker. A little eye candy for the grandpa. But yeah, I when you went to see the taping, were you sort of amazed because it was a show you watched?
I think I was still relatively shy at the time.
Okay,
I hadn't come out of my shell.
right.
I was still a ghost in the shell.
I see. A movie about you. You sold that story, and now it's a movie. Anything else you watched on Thursday? Did you
Cheers.
go? Cheers.
I was an early adopter of Cheers.
Great show. Diane's perfect date, ex-con Andy, returns to Cheers and purposely botches a holdup to get tossed back in the slammer. They brought him back every Halloween for like 3 seasons.
Yeah.
There's the Shakespeare one where he tried to kill everybody the season before.
I love that one.
That is a really good one. He later went on to be in a first-run syndicated show called My Secret Identity with Jerry O'Connell, where he played a scientist who gave Jerry O'Connell superpowers by accident. Yeah.
I much prefer the Jerry O'Connell vehicle, Sliders.
Yes, Sliders was very good. Where he got his brother to replace him when he didn't feel like doing it anymore. The show that brought us Kari Wurr. Actually, Remote Control brought us Kari Wurr, but...
I was watching some Remote Control. Was that on yet?
87 started. Okay. Yes. I've had my friend Greg Weimer on the show, who was the first winning contestant on Remote Control.
Get out of here.
And upstairs, I have the Remote Control t-shirt they gave him as part of his winning package.
Every once in a while, I just out of nowhere just say Meshuggah Mom.
Yeah.
Which was a question in the speed round where they were replacing the movie titles with Yiddish.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That show is really funny.
Meshuggah Mom.
It was so smart.
I
And
just
funny.
go Ken Ober. His voice going Meshuggah Mom.
Meshuggah Mom. Ken Ober, who was from Brookline, no longer with us, stand up. But that show was so smart and funny, and one of the first shows I remember that really was reflective on pop culture. That we grew up, that latchkey kid generation.
That's me.
Of watching the Brady Bunch and over and over and over again, and they had a thing called Dead or Canadian.
Yes. Well, that's why I picked 1983 because I was a latchkey kid. So I wanted to be old enough that I wasn't doing latchkey anymore.
Right. What were you doing?
After latchkey?
Yeah, like your parent was home, or?
Well, then I would just walk home, and I would usually watch like soap operas or syndicated shows.
Right.
So I was watching a bunch of like syndicated Three's Company and Jefferson's.
Yeah.
Before the local news.
Right. Yeah. Or like Partridge
Before Gail
Family.
King came on Channel
Gail
3
King.
WFSB.
Someday I will be Oprah's best friend. So we're on Friday night.
Yeah.
Final night of the week.
Now, see, this is an interesting Friday because one of the stations is devoted to the Boston Celtics season opener.
Yes, the
So
Celtics
that
versus
network,
the Pistons.
That was on network television.
Yep.
So I don't even know what was supposed to be on.
So Friday night, 83 on NBC. I actually don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't remember. But this is before
it's also-
Halloween.
Right, but it's also, it's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown.
Yes. And Garfield on the
Garfield,
town.
I don't know that I watched any of the Garfields.
Here's the weird thing. It's not the Garfield Halloween special.
No.
It's a different Garfield special. It's Garfield on the Town, which is weird, followed by the Great Pumpkin.
Right.
And the Halloween special wouldn't debut till another year later. For why show a Garfield special? I don't
guess
get
they
it.
figured they needed something animated in there to hold the block together.
I suppose. But yes, Garfield on the Town, and Mr. Smith is on as well. Mr. Smith goes bananas over a TV orangutan, but he has first date jitters when it's time to meet her. It's a show about a monkey in the White House.
Yes.
Going on a date with another monkey. Very weird.
So implausible.
Yes. So you're watching, are you going to watch, you're not watching Garfield?
I mean, I guess I probably did.
Yeah. And then 8:30.
Because I know I watched The Great Pumpkin.
8:30. I mean, The Great Pumpkin I still watch every year.
Yeah.
I think it's the better of Great Pumpkin and Christmas.
You think so?
I think so.
I mean, I just watched the Christmas one again this
I mean,
Christmas.
the Christmas one's really good. All the other ones are awful.
Yeah.
Those two are amazing, and they're perfect.
Right.
But it's tough. Webster's also on at 8:30.
Yeah, like I told you, I was not a big... I mean, I had short person solidarity with Emmanuel Lewis.
This is when Webster's...
Karras? Was that
Yeah, Alex Karras. Yeah.
Who was the mom?
The mom was his real life wife,
right.
played by Susan Clark. They were actually married. When Webster's
Which probably confused some people into thinking they actually did adopt Emmanuel
a
Lewis.
black child, yeah, which they never did officially. When Webster's formerly overweight babysitter comes for a visit, Catherine soon realizes that the now gorgeous aspiring sportscaster wants more than career advice from George.
Oh.
Ooh, racy. And one of the creepiest, weirdest shows ever is on NBC that night. So this is what would have been on versus basketball. What else would have? I'm just curious here. Yeah, Mr. Smith would have been on 8 o'clock on a Friday night, but the Boston station was showing the Celtics.
Wait, so they put Mr. Smith on the cover.
Yeah, but then in Boston it wasn't airing.
But in Boston you couldn't watch.
Right, you would have to
story.
tune into WJAR in Rhode Island to watch this. But it's a show called Jennifer Slept Here, which I don't know if you remember that show.
No.
It is, oh boy, Ann Jillian.
Oh,
Cambridge
I definitely
is on.
remember Ann Jillian.
Yep.
She was in the show where she was a waitress in a rooftop.
Yep, that
restaurant.
was. Yep, the rooftop restaurant was the Bonaventure Hotel, and which starred Paul Kreppel, played the piano player.
I watched that show
It's
a
called
bunch.
It's a Living.
Yeah, I watched It's a Living
Life's
a bunch.
Not the French Riviera. That's another show.
Syndication. wasn't it? Yeah.
It was called Making a Living, and then came back in first run syndication.
It's a
It's a
Living.
Living. But this is before It's a Living. She was
Okay.
in a show called Jennifer Slept Here, and it's about a famous Hollywood actress who was known for being very sexy, who dies in her house and haunts the house, and a family from New York moves in, and only the teenage son can see her.
So
It is super creepy.
that's Beetlejuice before Beetlejuice.
Sort of, but more sex creepy.
Right.
And the theme song, when she starts off, she goes, "Hi, it's me, and only you can see me." And then the song goes, "I just met the most beautiful girl in the world. She
Wait, how old
slept
was the kid?
here." 16, 15.
Yeah.
So this episode,
So this was marketed to us.
this was marketed to us. And this is going to freak you out how perfect this is.
Oh, was this?
George hires an exorcist, played by Zelda Rubinstein, to rid the house of Jennifer's spirit. Rubinstein played a similar part in the movie Poltergeist. I think we just got our answer to who the most famous little person was, because it's Zelda Rubinstein if she's making cameos on Jennifer Slept Here. I mean, that's an open and shut case, right?
Probably.
9 o'clock, what'd you go with?
Dallas.
Didn't go with Manimal.
No.
Dallas this week is Mickey orders Lucy, Ray, and Lil to stay away from the hospital, and Pam, played by Victoria Principal, who everybody loved, considers working with Cliff and Mark. While Bobby and JR await the audit of Ewing Oil, Cliff coerces Sly into spying on JR for Lucy. That's too complicated.
I wonder if I would be more sympathetic to Cliff now if I were to watch Dallas. Because back then it was like he was always so bitter about the Ewings.
Yeah.
And always trying to get at the Ewings. But now looking back, I wonder if we were supposed to root for Cliff.
Yeah,
because the Ewings were bad.
They were bad. And it's a show that it was too old for me, and I never really watched it. Maybe I should revisit it.
I watched it. Well, I was watching that in the Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah.
But I lost the moment Dallas lost me was the Bobby in the shower.
Yeah, I think that lost everybody. Yeah. I'll tell you, I'm absolutely watching Manimal, mostly because it's a more exciting show for me. But this particular episode, Jonathan, who's the Manimal, tries to learn the identity of a girl raised by wolves in India, and if that's not enough, and why someone would want to kill her. Perfect. I mean, can you get a better show there? 10 o'clock before we wrap up here. Amazing show I've never heard of before. It's called Outrage with an exclamation point. Crime Victims Fight Back. Listed as a documentary. George Kennedy narrates this 1983 documentary on how victims of crime are bringing about changes in the criminal justice system. The program focuses on California Victims' Bill of Rights, which lets crime victims testify before the judges about how their lives have been affected. It was about the law that basically introduced victim impact statements.
Oh, okay.
So it sounds like a semi-interesting documentary, but calling it Outrage! Crime Victims Fight Back makes it sound way more exciting. I would be very disappointed by that, having just seen the title. That's just me. So as you know, TV Guide is not just informative.
No.
It cheers and it jeers. And to finish up here, I will read you the cheers and jeers from this week, Halloween week, 1983, if I can find the cheers and jeers, which are...
I don't remember seeing the cheers and jeers.
Where are we, cheers and jeers? Here's the insider.
I don't remember seeing the cheers and jeers.
Are they not in here? They gotta be in here. There's the newcomer, Sherry. No cheers and jeers this week.
No, there was a feature story on the guy from General Hospital.
Yes, wearing a dress. There's a 3 cheers for the Battle of the Sexes, and for Lonnie Anderson is also one of the articles in here. But yeah, no cheers or jeers. So, do you have a cheer or jeer for that week in television? Anything that you jeer that we've talked about this week? Putting you on the spot there. If you don't, it's fine. I mean, I'm going to cheer Zelda Rubinstein for being the world's most famous little person in 1983.
I want to jeer Boston Television for preempting so much stuff for sports.
Yeah, welcome to my life. You can imagine how awful things were for me then. I was so mad. Goddamn hockey.
Because I'm looking through it going, I'm probably watching sports, I guess.
Yeah, I never watched sports. And thank God we had a VCR. I could time shift.
I probably just spun the dial.
Yeah, see what I could get. I'd see some scrambled boobies. Scrambled boobies. You could name a breakfast place that? Could you name a breakfast place scrambled cable?
Oh.
I don't know if people would get it. I feel like you could do that in Brooklyn.
You can do anything in Brooklyn.
You can do anything in Brooklyn. You can fly. You will believe a man can fly.
It's so different now.
It really is. Well, thank you so much for doing the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Ken.
Oh, baby, I see you in my TV set, yeah, baby, I see you in my TV set. I cut your head off and put it in my TV set.
There you go, Sean McCarthy, really good guy. The comics comic, I will put links up to it on tvguidancecounselor.com, but it's easily Googleable. That's a difficult word to say. Googleable is a difficult word. Difficult word to say. I am not very good with elocution. I don't know if you've figured that out by now, which is not great for a person who speaks as much as I do. Anyway, thanks again to Sean for doing the show. Thanks to you for listening. Thanks to you for purchasing TV Guidance Counselor merchandise or for emailing me. I love hearing from you guys. If you'd like to email me, you can email me at tvguidancecounselor@gmail.com or at ken@icanread.com. icanread.com, of course, being my stand-up comedy page where you can find out all of my live dates, including TV Guidance Counselor dates. You can buy my albums and all of the TV Guidance Counselor merch. You can go on Facebook and search TV Guidance Counselor and get in touch with me there, as well as other listeners of the show, or tweet to me at TV Guidance. And if you like the show, please rate and review it on iTunes. It is a huge help for people finding out about the show. So we'll see you again next time on Wednesday for a brand new episode of TV Guidance Counselor.